no matter who you are, no matter what you have been through, your story doesn't end there. Your stories qualify you to make a difference, to make an impact in this world. And today we're going to be talking to a guest who has done just that. He's going to share his story of resilience and how he is making an impact in his community right after this. What is mindset? Our mindset is based on what we believe, and anything we believe in, we put into motion. I have spent my life putting the mindset of perseverance into motion, and now I am here today to share my journey along with others whose mindsets have changed the course of their lives. Hi, I'm mindset coach Lorraine Lindsey, and I believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. So are you ready? Welcome back to the Lorraine Lindsey Podcast show. We are all about mindset here. We believe in this studio that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. Before I introduce my next guest, please do not forget to hit the subscription. We are growing and continuing to growing, but a lot of you are watching the program without subscribing. So subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We love to hear from you, and I certainly appreciate the support. All right, I want to get right into this because I am excited to have this guest on the show. He is a man who is a story of resilience. He has taken what he has done in his life and made an impact on the youth, which to me is like the youth is where it's at. When we invest in them, it just changes the world really, truly. So without further ado, let me introduce my next guest, Mr. Preston Pinkney. And before we talk to Mr. Preston here, let me give you a little background. Preston, utilizing over 2 decades of experience, serves as a community advocate for youth in the Bay Area. His professional background in fundraising, leading, and developing foundations and programs has impacted thousands of youth, most notably by providing mentorship, job training, and life skills. Through his dedication to making a positive influence on young lives in the region, Mr. Pinkney has founded organizations, programs, and events, which include the Pinkney Foundation, Primetime Golf, Ace Kids Golf, Girls Love Golf, Battle at the Hawk, and Tees for Bees. Preston also leads his efforts in advisory, consultant, and directorial role through organizations that focus on youth development, such as the Eat, Learn, Play Foundation, founded by Stephen and Aisha Curry. Stephen and Aisha Curry. The Northern California Golf Association. Hello, I should know those names. The Sports Premature Amateur Governing Body, the PGA Tour, AT&T's Pebble Beach, Pro-Am, Rotary International, SEIU, Local 1021, and Peralta College Foundation. Man, there's a lot going on with you, Preston. Preston enjoys spending quality time with his wife, Giovanni, and their family, attending sport events, traveling, and golfing the great courses of Northern California. Wow, that was a mouthful. There's so much you've got going on.
I know, it doesn't stop.
It does not stop. So, first of all, I'm so excited that you have taken the time to come here to Las Vegas to sit with me and to talk about all of this impact that you have going on. But when we met at a foundation. Correct. I had a guest on the show. What's his name?
Santonio,
thank you. Santonio Holmes Jr. came on the show.
Yeah.
And he is also doing some really amazing work. And so he was doing a foundational thing, a golf tournament for his youth. And I met you there. And we sparked this amazing, amazing conversation where you told me your incredible story and what you're actually doing. And to be quite honest with you, would never have expected as much that you shared with me to come from you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then let's go into all these amazing things that you're doing.
All right. Well, before we go into that, I do want to say my team did win the golf tournament.
Nice. Understandably, right?
Yeah.
What was the scrambles format?
Yeah, scramble format. We shot 17 under.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
But we was playing with Willie Galt, Mike Dempsey, and some other guys. It was really fun out there.
Yeah, and you golf, right? Obviously, you're an avid golfer.
Correct.
Do you have a pretty good handicap?
I'm all right. I'm a single digit.
Okay, that's being extremely modest.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself, because tell us where you grew up and what your kind of like background is and what led you to doing all of this phenomenal work for all these children.
Yeah, so I was born in Oakland, raised in Richmond, California, to Richmond, California, and just lived a normal inner city childhood. Growing up in the inner city, we have our challenges, and especially in our impressionable times. You don't see a lot of opportunity, coming out these situations. We were always looking at situations to get out the hood as either being a rapper, drug dealer, or athlete, entertainer. That was kind of like your only outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we kind of took it to heart. So I got my start doing music back in the early 90s, went to school for it and started my own studio and, started doing things that way, trying to be a little bit more positive in my life. And during this time, I'm in my late teens, early 20s, I had a gentleman named Jeff Calloway who was a client of mine at my studio. And my first studio at the time was at my mom's house. And so he told me I needed a job. And he came by the studio and seen a bunch of job applications on my mixing board. And he said, "Hey, man, I give you a job as a van driver, picking up the kids and taking them to the golf course." And so that was like my first introduction to the game of golf.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back in 2000. So it's been it'll be 24 years this month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? How time flies.
Yeah. And so like my first activation, we took the kids down to the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. That's down in Monterey, down 17-mile drive. If you haven't been down there, it costs money just to drive down that street.
Oh, does it really?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
They charge you. It's a beautiful scenic view. But once you go down there, you see all the big mansions, all the fancy cars. And as you're getting closer and closer to the golf course, you start seeing the glimmers of the water out there
Mm-hmm.
and glimmers of the golf course. And at this particular time, when we had just arrived at the facility, Tiger Woods had just made a birdie. So the crowd was just erupting.
Wow.
And it just kind of gave me goosebumps to see what this was really all about. So after watching him, the rest of the day, it really just opened up my eyes to how people are really living their lives
Right.
outside of our neighborhoods.
And that's what I was going to ask you. It's like, you're in this inner city, you're making your music, and then you're like, okay, I just need a job. But not knowing that job was going to be the catalyst for a completely changing direction for your life. And I think that's important because I grew up in the inner city as well. And you're exactly right. What you're saying is we're so limited to what we think we can do with our lives because it's just we're in that little box. And you taking that drive and seeing that, what was the shift? Like describe that shift and why that made you want to do as many endeavors as you're doing today.
Well, it just let me know that there was a lot more opportunities than what was going on right immediately around us.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing people really living this lifestyle, made me believe that, it actually could happen. And then, getting more involved with the program and getting more involved with the youth, that's what really changed my direction because now I was making a positive impact on the kids that we were serving and encouraging them to be their best selves, to become positive and productive citizens in the community. And so the values of golf, you're going to talk about honesty, integrity, respect. These are like the key factors. There's no referees on the golf course, so you have to do everything by the book as honest as possible. And then with integrity, what are you going to do when nobody's watching? Are you going to kick that ball from behind the tree or are you going to call the penalty on yourself? And, these type of things are the same ways that you need to act off the golf course as well, whether it's business, whether it's school, whether it's relationships, things of that nature.
When you take the kids out there, do you correlate life with the game of golf? Do you actually like implement that when you're talking to them? Because for me, even just you saying that, I never put that together like that. You know what I mean? And for inner city kids, golf is not the thing that they would ever think about. Even when it comes to being an athlete and playing a sport, it's one of those things that a lot of these kids are not exposed to. So how important is it? And do you correlate the life lesson with the game?
We definitely do that, because a lot of times they don't even understand these terms. They don't know what some of these things are, and so a good example is you could do everything right. You could hit your tee shot right down the middle. You could hit your next shot on the green, and then you could three putt. And when you three putt, then that means you get a bogey, so that's a bad score.
Okay,
right?
I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So when you're scoring in golf, the lowest score wins.
Right.
And so you're trying to get the lowest score you can, par for the course, and a quick example of par is the amount of strokes that it takes to hit the ball into the hole.
Okay.
So if it's a par 4, it should take you 4 shots. If it's par 3, it should take you 3 shots. Par 5, etc.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So if you're on a par 4 and you hit your first 2 shots great, and then you 3-putt, now you're giving up a stroke to the course, because you're not playing against your competitor. You're actually playing against the course.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you apply that conversation with the kids to life? Like, what is the metaphor to that? How does it correlate for them?
So it's a game of perseverance, right?
Yeah.
You know, you could try something once, it's not going to work. You could try something twice, it's not going to work. 3-4 times, it's not going to work. But that doesn't mean that you give up, that you quit. You know, you keep going, you keep following your goals, and you be persistent with your dreams and whatever your accomplishments are.
So this here, you started off this thing by a job that your mom said you needed. How did this turn into what it is today? And the reason why I ask is because the last few guests that I've talked to, one of the things that seems to be a common thread is that you get into a thing not knowing if it's going to be your purpose. And then the purpose just kind of speaks to you. It just kind of comes alive, because a lot of people ask that question. Like, I don't know what my life's purpose is, especially when they see people like yourself doing these really big, these just big purposeful things. Like, you're living such a purpose-driven life. Yet that wasn't the plan. So talk to us about how driving that van up that hill turned into your purposeful work.
Well, you know, I've always had big ambitions. You know, people tell me I'm very ambitious. And if it sounds crazy to most people, then to me, I'm on the right track. And so when we first started, you know, our program was very simple, very basic. You know, we bring a couple kids up to the golf course on a regular basis. But I wanted to pump those numbers up. You know, we were doing like 100 kids. I'm like, okay, what would it be like to get 200 kids? And from 200 kids, it went to 300 kids, so forth and so on. And I took over the program in 2006, and I really didn't have the skill set, so I had to learn how to write grants. I had to learn how to find funding sources. I had to learn about recruiting volunteers, and I had a lot of great mentors, you know, on my journey. Correct.
So let's talk about that, because I want to kind of break that down, because this is so important. I think this is such a great conversation to have, because a lot of people, when they have ideas, when they have nonprofits they want to do, or they want to give back some way, or they want to start a business, whatever, they get really overwhelmed by all the things that happen. Well, you were someone that was like, I got a job, I'm going to drive these kids to this place, and that sparked something inside of you, right? How long were you going through the journey, or how long were you actually doing the driving work before you were like, this is something I want to do? And why was that the decision you made?
So at a certain period of time, my mentor, Jeff Calloway, who was the director of the program, he decided to go take another position.
Okay.
And so when he left, the founders of Ace Kids Golf, Henry Labette and Tom Williams, they left as well. So pretty much everybody that was involved with starting the organization, they all went on to do other things and kind of handed it off to me.
Oh. And was it something where it was at that time where you still just driving, or what were you more involved at that time?
Well, I was still mainly the driver and the coach.
Okay.
Been to a couple meetings and seen a couple things, but really didn't know all the processes and the details of the whole other side of the operations, right? What it's like getting money and doing things of that nature. So that was a whole learning experience. And in order for me to get more involved, I needed staff. So I needed to hire a driver. So one of my first things I did, I hired a van driver. So that eliminated that responsibility.
But how did you know? I mean, when they're like, we're going on to new endeavors, and they say to you, Preston, would do you want to take on this thing? How did you know in that moment for you, like, I want to do this? Did you feel like you were prepared, or were you just like, this is an opportunity and I'll figure it out?
Yeah, I'm a figured out type of guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just hit the ground running, and I figure whatever I need to learn, I'll learn along the way.
Yeah.
But really, I just thought it was important, you know, especially with the role that I was doing with music. You know, I'm working with kids, telling them to be positive and productive citizens, but the music that we're doing is preaching the opposite. And so I wanted to get more involved and you know, kind of live the example that we're talking about.
And why? I mean, why? Because music could have been that avenue that you took and did your thing and made your money and got your fame and stuff like that. Why did you feel that it was important that the messaging change and you do this instead? What was that thing inside of you that was like pulling at you to do this?
It was just being with the youth and just seeing how influential I was with them, right? Having conversations with them and really sparking their mind and making them think about things a little bit different, making them have more confidence in themselves, to where now they see themselves doing something different, just like the game did for me.
I love that. So you do this, you take this on, and the reason why I'm doing this thing, because I know there's people can relate, like can hear this and understand the steps. Like it's like the thing that calls to you when you get it and you do it, then the things that all the logistic, all the things you need to do, it can be overwhelming when you think about it all. But like you said, the opportunity came, I felt that I obliged, I felt like I wanted to do this. And then the next problem was I need to hire a driver. So it's like one step over another. So you find a driver. I mean, what were the overwhelming feeling? Was there ever a time in this process where you're like, I've just taken over this thing, that you wanted to quit or give up or throw in the towel?
Oh, every day, because
Yeah.
you deal with obstacles every day, and that's where the perseverance comes in. And you just got to remind yourself of what you're here for and what your purpose is about. But yeah, it was many times, and anytime you're in business, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days.
Right.
And, you're going to have to go cry in that closet and then come out with a smile on your face, because it's game time, it's showtime.
Yeah.
But, for me, it's just scalability and outreaching to as many kids as possible, So I just kept putting different models together, different programs together, coming up with different ideas, partnering with other groups, just to kind of make things better and get more exposure. At one point, I was shuttling 60 kids to the golf course on a daily basis.
Wow.
And we had over 1,000 kids coming through our program.
Wow. And where were you finding the children? How did you find the youth? Because I know you said that we had 100, and I'm like, I'm going to double this. And you get to a point where you're doing thousands of children. I mean, what impact to have on those kids? But where were you finding the children to participate?
A lot of our kids were coming from the recreation centers. There's over 20 recreation centers in the city of Oakland. And then also partnering with the Oakland Unified School District.
Okay.
And so, there's like over 35,000 kids within the district as a whole. So there's plenty of kids out there, that need opportunities.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's so inspiring because I know how important this is. 24 years later, and I mean, you've no small feat. I mean, and I was reading the bio. I mean, I was just going on and on. So talk to me about the other foundations, like the Eat, Learn, Pray, and the foundation with Steph and Aisha Curry. How did that end up being something that you were participating in or being a part of?
Well, when they launched their foundation 4 years ago, they did a big launch party, and they partnered with the Parks and Recreation Department and brought out all the kids to Lake Merritt. Lake Merritt's a public place, so they gated it all off. They had all kind of events for the kids.
Nice.
They had a concert there. They had all different sports activities, golf, tennis, basketball, gardening. I mean, just the whole gamut. And not only did they put that on, but Steph and Aisha and their daughter, Riley, they participated with the children as well. So I actually met Steph when we were at the gardening session and introduced myself, told him that I do golf for the city. And he told me that he loves golf and he wanted to make a difference, help make a difference. And that's what kind of sparked everything. And from there, he was generous enough to auction off one of his limited edition golf shoes that gave shots out to our Black golf legends. So that was pretty dope and pretty inspiring. And then he, got in a video with us and some of the kids, got to play some golf with them and have a little contest. And the next phase from there, I'm on a video with Lee Elder, the first African-American to play in the Masters in 1975.
Wow.
And he announces a scholarship announces giving some funds to scholarship 75 kids to celebrate the 1975 Masters.
I love that. That's so amazing.
And so that's how it got started. And then eventually, they brought in some more partners. Robert Baker from Logical Golf, who makes these incredible golf clubs and training aids for our kids. They already have the grips on them. They're wiffle ball sets.
Nice.
And we've given out over 1,200 sets of clubs over the last few years to the
Wow.
kids.
How important is this? Like, when these kids come from the inner cities and what have you, and they go and drive up that road or see these, I mean, golf courses, if people haven't seen them, they're unbelievably beautiful. What do you get? Does it ever wear off for you when you see these kids' reactions when they're like looking at this stuff like, wow?
Nah, I expect it, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the joy I get, because a lot of kids, when we bring them up there, they're like, are we still in Oakland? Are we still in the town? Because it's so beautiful. It's so quiet out here. It's so peaceful. And that's kind of one of the activities that I lead as well with them. When we first get up there, we turn off the music. When we enter the gate, start slowing things down. And when we sit down, we have everybody sit down, close their eyes, and listen, and just tell me what you hear. And a lot of them hear the trees or they hear the birds chirping. But one thing they don't hear is they don't hear a bunch of rambunctious kids running around the golf course and terrorizing. And so we kind of put it in perspective like that for them, to get their mindset and their mind ready. And that's where the etiquette piece comes in, because you have to know the rules of the golf course, And so that's where the training starts, the first time driving into the golf course.
I love it. So is this like all you do? Is this like everything you pour yourself into, or are there other things that you do?
No, I do a lot of other things as well. We just opened up an indoor golf training facility called Primetime Golf in downtown Oakland. And you can check us out on Instagram, Primetime Golf Oakland. And we also have a website, primetimegolf.org, which is an amazing facility with 2 golf zone simulators. We have a Zen Stage putting green, which is a movable putting green on switches. So we can emulate any lie that you want to.
I need to come check it out.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. And then our simulators, we have the best technology. We have the auto tee system. We have the different textures of grass, which is the fairway, the rough, the bunkers, and then the floor moves to emulate your lie. So when you on the golf course, when you're on your simulators, it's the next.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. It's almost like being on the golf course.
So obviously, when you first started all of this, you weren't like an avid golfer or anything. You learned the game through this organization.
Correct.
Is there a way for like inner city schools and things to really start implementing more and putting more into other sports other than the typical basketball, football kind of thing? Because I feel like even with golf or even a sport such as tennis, even for young girls, right? It's such a like I said, there's so much discipline and there's so much integrity learned with these games and camaraderie as well, and learning so much. And there's so much life skill being an athlete. But if you feel like you're not built to be an athlete, like a basketball player or whatever, you feel like you can't do anything. And I think that the more that these kids learn this kind of stuff, because anybody can play golf.
Correct.
Anybody can play golf, right? I mean, I'm sure that, obviously, provided they have their modalities and everything like that. But how important is it that these kids know that those are avenues for them? And do you, in fact, try to go into the schools and build up golf programs and stuff like that just to educate them on that sport?
Yeah, so, one of the benefits about playing golf is that that's where the deals are done. Upper management, they're making deals on the golf course.
So
they're
true.
gonna come up, they're gonna come back and tell the supervisors which direction they're going. And, especially for our women, our professional women and our young women, it's good to know the game and understand the game so they could be invited and be part of the process. And I'm going to keep it real with you. Golf is a very tough sport. When you're looking at those top 100 people on Sundays, those are like the greatest golfers in the world.
Yeah.
The average golfer, shoots over 100. So it just tells you how difficult the game is.
I know it's so underestimated. So I have a funny story. I was in the casino business for many, many years. And there was a customer that I was working really hard to cultivate his business and calling him, trying to build rapport with him. And I'm trying to think, what's this guy's thing? What's this thing, right? And so I do some more research on the guy and what have you. My job, by the way, was to bring high rollers, big gamblers into the casino. And so I traveled all over the world to find out who these guys were and to try to get them to come to work or to gamble at my casino exclusively if they would, but you had to
Yeah.
build a lot of relationships to get these kind of gamblers to go and play with you because they could go anywhere. Anyhow, so I found out this guy owns a golf course in Connecticut. And so I'm like, all right, that's my angle. Like,
Yeah.
I got to like get this guy on the course. Now, I have no idea how to golf. I did, like putting, and I get those little like miniature golf courses, but that was the extent of it. And so I called him up and I was like, look, I know you have this, golf course here in Connecticut and whatever. I'd like to, play a couple rounds with you. And he's like, oh, you golf? And I was like, yeah, golf, He's like, oh, well, since you put it that way, absolutely. It was the one thing that I was able to use to get a conversation out of him. Well, the funny thing is I get there and then I had to admit to him, like, I really have no idea what I'm doing. I just needed this time with you. So he set me up with one of his professional golfers and gave me like a whole like lesson. And I was like, this, first of all, is so much harder than I ever thought. I was so sore the next day. I didn't realize how much muscle you use. And then the mind part of it too, the strategy, the being able to focus, and all of these little things that I underestimated the game is my point. But I think that I love that you're doing this thing with kids because I feel like, again, being a young girl that grew up in the inner city, I just didn't think that something like the game of golf would ever be an option for me as a young girl, and how that could have changed literally the course of my life too, just because of the people you meet on a golf course too.
Definitely, and having that sentiment, that's why we created a Girls Love Golf program. So and when I do the program, I bring in sports psychologists, I bring in fitness nutritionists, I bring in the LPGA pros, so they can see, what it's like to get to that next level, to that professional level, to interact and engage with them and teach them.
What made you adapt that program for the girls? Like, how did you know that there was a need for now the girls to have their own specific program?
Well, initially we had a girls only program
Okay.
several years back, and we just wanted to re-pick it up and revigorate it, and add some different things. So during this time frame, I started a program called the AATQ, the African American Tour Quest, where we were helping young men, reach their professional aspirations. So we were providing these same things, as well as helping with tournament fees, travel expenses, and things of that nature. So I thought it'd be a cool idea to incorporate these same things to our young ladies, so they get used to this type of professional development, the mental side of focus, understanding better eating habits and healthy habits, because a lot of our kids aren't active. They're in the house.
True.
They're not eating correctly, so by teaching them at a young age and getting them to get these behaviors, they could be doing this lifetime.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. I want to digress a little bit, and I want to kind of go back into how this kind of circling back to how it all started for you. When you were growing up, did you imagine that this would be your pathway for your life?
No, I had no clue.
Okay.
At one point, my teacher told me, he sat me down, he said, look, you're a smart young man. He said, but you're coming to this why. You're either going to be successful or you're going to be dead or in jail. And you need to make a choice right now.
And how did you receive that? I mean, gosh, because I know so many kids have heard that conversation, but they just don't listen. How did you digest that where it was tangible for you?
Well, fortunately for me at that time, I had a good support system. I had a mentor, Dedan Jajaga, RIP, just passed away last year. But he was very instrumental in getting me back into college, getting me around my other mentor, Wayne Organ, who was the professor at the time and ran the music department at Contra Costa College, and Tim Clow, who was the dean of matriculation. So they put that web around me, and they got me situated where making sure I had the right classes, making sure I had jobs, income coming in. And so they kind of just wrapped their arms around me to put me in a good position.
Gosh, that's so important. And I know there's parents out here watching and listening to this and feeling like their kids are kind of running amok in life and they're having a hard time locking them down. I mentor young girls with an organization called Iron Sharpens Iron. And It's so funny. We'll
like
do a
that
12-week.
name.
It's a great program. There'll be 12 weeks that they spend with us, and there'll be a group of girls, and they're coming from inner cities, they're coming from trouble, they have all these things, and it's always funny because they come in with attitudes, and they're quiet or standoffish. They feel like they're wasting their time. But by the time the 12 weeks are over, there's this little shift that happens inside of them because their perspective has changed. And so for parents who are watching, it's such an important thing to try to get your kids in front of mentors. Try to get them to programs, whether it's a Boys and Girls Club, or look up organizations that are local, and get your kids in front of people that will show them something different. Because sometimes they don't receive what you're saying, or as a parent, you've got so much going on in your own life that you don't even know where to begin for yourself, let alone your child. But how did you find mentorship, and how, if parents were listening, how would you say for those parents that they could get their kids to be open to the idea of having mentors, aside from being in basketball or football or something? But how do they get that and get their kids to really digest it?
So, I mean, with me, I was very stubborn.
Okay.
Took me a long time to start listening to folks. And when I did, it started working. And so from then on, like, I just started listening all the time. I mean, I remember this guy telling me, it was an old man. He was like, "Young blood, that cell phone that you got in your hand right now." And back then, that's when the screen was either blue or green, or and you couldn't even text back then. He
Right.
said, these are going to be computers. You need to look into this. And I'm like, "Oh, whatever, old man. You don't know what you're talking about." And then here we are. You can't live without your phone in
Right.
your pocket, and it's a supercomputer. So that was one of the things. I just started taking heed and listening to folks when they give me these nuggets and drop these jewels, and then just start trying some of the ways. And it started making things easier because I started getting direct lines to things where when you try to figure out for yourself, you're going to bump your head, you're going to make mistakes.
Right.
When you could just, follow the yellow brick road.
Right. I cannot emphasize that enough, because even for me, gosh, there are certain people in my life growing up where they don't even realize the nuggets that they've dropped, the seeds that they planted, because some of them were fleeting people, but they saw something in me.
Yes.
And they would say something, and they were direct, and they were intentional. And although I would act stubborn, there were little seeds that would be planted, and something would pop up and would remind me, and it would start to grow something. But it took all of that to shape and mold me, and to get me out of an environment and being able to look at things differently, to change my life. And it did really change my life. I know when we were at the Legacy and we were talking, there was something, we had a conversation about this, and how some of the programs and some of the things and organizations, they don't allow people who've had a story, who've come from adversity, particularly if they've had some criminal background, to get into programs like this, to actually be mentors for children. Do you feel like people who have been there, done that, have a way heavier in kids, getting them to listen, than people who maybe have just read a couple books?
Definitely, when you've lived it and have lived experience, it's you have the story to tell. You can share
Right.
your stories, and a lot of people that have gone through it, they don't want the kids to make the same mistake.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that we do have generations of kids that still go down that
Path,
road, that
yeah.
path. And hopefully, we could change it, because, and the other reason why I'm doing this too is, the education system, in Oakland is terrible. Like, most of our kids aren't even reading at grade level.
Wow.
They're not passing class at grade level. So they need these additional opportunities, to get that self-confidence
Yeah.
with themselves, to believe that they can be a great reader, that they can be a great mathematician, that they
Absolutely.
can be that scientist. Because we don't need any more rappers or entertainers or basketball players.
Right. And and to me, the ignorance and the uneducated is where a lot of problems come from, right? Because people like to say, like, when we go through like race issues and things like that, and I'm like, yeah, that's what we're saying it is, but it's an economical problem, it's an education problem. And I feel like when people feel insecure, they feel like they're dumber than everybody, or they're not smart enough, they cause trouble. They run amok, when they feel not seen and not validated. And I feel like things like this, programs like this, like you said, to really build community to build confidence in our children and get them to see it's so incredibly, incredibly powerful. And I wish it was something that we talked about more often and that we brought awareness to, which is why I was so happy when you're like,
Yeah.
I'll come on your show and talk about this. Because, I mean, it's golf. We don't think of inner city kids playing golf.
Nah, and
You know?
we're trying to change the narrative, you know,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful, you know, when you got these kids coming up and they do graduate high school and they do have ambitions and they do go on to college and then they come back and now they're executive directors for other organizations, giving them back themselves. You know, that's, you know, you look at one out of the thousands, but it really makes an impact because now they're making more of an impact on their community.
It just spreads, right? What's been the most challenging thing for you along this journey with all of this that you're doing?
Fundraising, right? That's like the hardest part because
Yeah.
we need money to do this work, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing right now. So we being creative, getting grants. I'm working on revamping my board, looking for some high net worth individuals to get involved. So when we have some projects that need to take care of, it's not that much cumbersome. Raising the funds that we need to implement our programs pretty quickly. We have a big tournament coming up, Battle at the Hawk on March 25th, Black Hawk Country Club in Danville, California. It's a really exclusive country club in the rich part of town out there in
And you
in
do
the
that to
East
raise
Bay.
money for your programs.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And this year is even more special. It's our third annual, but we're celebrating 25 years of the Ace Kids Golf Program
Love it.
in the community.
Love that. And do the kids come back? I mean, do they come back to mentor and help the other kids, or if they become affluent themselves, do they come back and make contribution in any way?
Yeah, so we have a really good system for that. When the kids turn 16, I hire them on as junior instructors.
Love that.
And then they start working with the younger kids themselves. And usually they stick around all the way through college. So Adrian Davis, he started me when he was 10 years old. He's a senior at Cal. He'll be graduating this spring.
Nice.
And he's been working with us, since she was 16. So I would say 7 years now. Janisa Salazar, she started me when she was 7. She's a senior in college right now. She
Wow.
played 2 years of college golf. One of my very first students, Saring Dorji, he has kids now, and his daughter was in our golf program.
Wow.
And
That's so crazy to see that full circle, isn't it?
yes, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And so like we're really involved with the community. We're not a corporation. We really touch their
Yeah.
lives and we make lifelong relationships with our families.
Did you find that you had any resistance with golf courses being open to these type of programs? Because when I think of golf, I think of it as an elitist sport, right? It is high end, people with tons of money. And also, too, inner city, one of the reasons why I always felt like golf was never part of the conversation because it's an expensive sport, right?
Yes.
Same thing with tennis. And it was just like, it's out of our league or what have you. So bringing inner city kids into these elite places, some of them are exclusive golf courses and stuff like that. Did you feel that you had any pushback with or any resistance with that?
Some clubs, we kind of felt that in the beginning, but over the years, like a lot of these clubs have been very welcoming,
That's nice.
and very supportive. Letting us bring our kids up there, letting them use their facilities, even providing their instructors, So I would say over the years it's been a lot better, a lot accommodating, a lot more accommodating from these
I think
groups.
that's important to know because I think people have a misconception. And when people have these dreams and these goals to do work such as yourself, they worry too much about what the resistance will be. And that's why I asked the question, because I hope that for people who are watching who have dreams of doing something such as what you're doing, that they hear your conversation, say, I can do this, that I can start that project, I can start that nonprofit, and not be afraid of, literally a few years into just driving these kids to this thing, you're handed off something that you have to keep alive because essentially if you didn't take it, it could have probably have just fizzled out.
Correct. And so, but that's where my my goals are. Like I wanted to impact as many kids as possible. Still like my goal right now is I want to impact 20,000 youth in the next 3 years. Right, so
Love
that's
that.
like over 6,000 kids a year. people like, how are you going to do that, Preston? I'm like, well, we just don't have to do it in Oakland. We have cities all over the country.
Right, absolutely.
So we could be running programs all over the country. So we're looking to partner with other cities, other school districts.
Vegas is a great golf place with a lot of good golf courses out here.
Man, I would love to do work out here in Vegas.
Yeah.
And you know, it's nothing but a hop, skip, and a jump.
We'll have to
from where
talk.
I'm
We'll
at.
have to talk because I think it's really good. I think it's really great, and I'm sure a lot of people collectively would be all about that because this is a golf town, believe it or not. You know, it's that's one of the things when I worked in the casino business, that was one of the things, especially earlier on in my career, where that's when Tiger Woods was like everything and everybody was jumping on the golf wagon and whatever. And and Vegas became this mecca for these amazing golf communities. I mean, they're all over and they're really, really beautiful. And some of them are very exclusive, but I think this would be a great town for that. And there's definitely a need for something like this here in Vegas.
Well, I'm all on board. Like we could start right now. We start tomorrow.
I like it. I really do. So tell people how they can research your organization. How can people make contributions to the organization? And what type of contributions do you need? I mean, obviously there's the obvious one, right? Money helps a ton. But are there other types of things that you all need as an organization for your youth?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, www.thepinkneyfoundation.org, or you go to acekidsgolf.org. And those are our two primary sites where we host all our programs and our information, and you can make donations there. In addition to funds, we're also looking for volunteers. You know, volunteering time really goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
In-kind stuff, if it's golf clubs, golf balls, shoes, shirts, you know, all we do is make sure that the kids have the supplies that they need to go out and play on the golf course. And, you know, we support a lot of the schools, the high schools as well. So we make sure that they have the equipment they need so they go compete for their seasons. And then also, too, if you guys are looking to become part of our board of directors and really make an impact that way, helping us fundraise and bring more resources, volunteering at our events, you know, it's a really great way to give back and really grow what we're doing.
How many people do you keep on your board? Just curious.
I'm trying to grow my board to 13 people.
Okay. And this is me completely being ignorant about this, but what is the reason for the board? Like, what does the board do? Like, what's the importance or the significance? And how does someone qualify to be on the board?
So the board is, governance and then also fundraising.
Okay.
Right? So we got to be able to bring in a minimum amount of money from the board just to keep, our overhead costs paid for. And then also they're going to bring in additional resources through their networks, to grow what we're doing. And we just ask that each board member either give or get $10,000 to our organization per year.
Yeah. God, it's so cool what you're doing. I love this. I love it because, again, for you, it's a story of your own resilience. And then with that resilience, you're giving children an ability to be resilient in their own lives, right? And for you to take literally, and I know I keep referencing back, but just I needed a job, and that job turned into purpose.
Yeah.
And again, emphasizing that, for people out there that are watching, it's like your purpose doesn't have to be this obvious thing. It's that sometimes in life there will be something that just speaks to you that you'd never expected, right?
So I was talking to one of my partners about this because I talk about this all the time, pinch myself. And basically he said, P, your blessings were already there. You just weren't going to them. And I remember I'm on the board of directors of the NCGA, Northern California Golf Association. And we have a wonderful program called Youth on Course where kids pay $5 or less and play all over the country.
Oh, I love that.
And now it's starting to become a worldwide, international organization. But it just started out in California where the kids pay $5 for golf. And so when they first started, we had our kids involved with that program. I forgot where I was going to go with this, but
about purpose. It was about purpose. And,
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what happened. I was, excuse me, let me drink some water right quick. I was invited to do a panel for their year-end board meeting. Excuse me. And I was talking to a wonderful lady out there and sharing information about what we're doing for our program. And I did my presentation and got a round of applause, standing ovation. And she comes up to me and she says, "You're exactly what we need to be on the board of directors of the NCGA, Northern California Golf Association." And this person ended up being Gail Rogers, who was the first female president of the board of directors for the NCGA in history. I think she's the first and the only thus far.
Wow.
And so it was very incredible that, she saw that in me, that she felt like I would be an asset to this organization that was founded in 1901.
Wow.
And so I've been on the board for 5 years now. This is my 5th year on the board.
It's crazy how one thing will lead to another. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm really, I think it's a blessing what you're doing. And I thank you for even coming here and taking the time. So before we go, we're getting ready to close. What would be something that you would say to people who are listening about resilience and also about staying on purpose and not giving up with purpose?
Yeah, once you commit to something, you have to stay the course. A lot of people, when they see it's challenging, they want to jump to something else and jump to something else and jump to something else. 5 years later, you starting all over again when you could have put all your time and your energy into that one thing. 5 years, you're going to see the fruits of your labor. You're going to see your blessings. And none of this is easy. I don't care how easy it may seem or what it looks like from the outside. Everything is hard. It's challenging. It's going to be tough. But you can't break down. You can't give up. You have to go through all your obstacles. You either go through them, go around them, go over them. But stopping and quitting is never an option.
Because you found out something that was greater than yourself.
It's bigger than us. It's bigger than all of us.
Yeah. Well, Preston, I thank you so much. This has been really good. I loved our conversation. I'm so glad. I want to get more involved. So we'll talk off the air. And obviously, hopefully, you and I definitely stay in touch. In any way that I can help. And for anyone out there who wants to make a contribution, I will leave all of the links to his organizations below. Remember that investing and contributing to our youth is everything. They are our future, truly. Preston, thank you, thank you, thank you. And once again, if you have not subscribed, do not forget to hit the subscription button. And until next time, ciao.